Well, hello, Gordon. It's wonderful to see you, and thank you for agreeing
Morning.
to. Morning.
Right.
Thank thank you for agreeing to speak to us. This is going to go into what we call our community corner, a little space on Facebook, our Dundonald Facebook page, where I interview people that are in the community of Dundonald, and they're sharing something about their life. Now we'll come on to what we're sharing in a wee minute, but do you want to just tell people who you are and how we know each other?
Yes, certainly, Lynsey. My name's Gordon Highet, and I'm a member of Dundonald Parish Church. I remember, I think the first time I met you was back in March of 2019. So that was the very first time. Also, I'd just like to thank you for inviting me along here this morning to have a little talk about the music and about God.
Oh, brilliant, Gordon. So I've invited you to speak with us today because you have been blessed with a gift of writing and producing worship music. And we have been very blessed by a church that when the building was open, you were sharing your worship in the church building. But since the buildings have been closed, we've been sharing your music on our online services as well. And we have an idea that you have a really wonderful gift of not only singing and playing music, but also writing music. And we wanted to get that out there a bit more because we want your music to bless other people as well. So we're going to be sharing your music every Thursday on Facebook, on our Dundonald Parish Church Facebook page, for a couple of weeks. But could you tell folks today how you came to write worship songs?
Yes, well, going back right to the sort of beginning, my mum bought me my first guitar in 1965 for the princely sum of £4.50, which, believe it or not, was my first working wage with Saxon Shoe Factory in Kilmarnock. So that started me off with the guitar, and I disappeared obviously every night to my bedroom to practice all the chords and some songs, because there was just something about the guitar, the sound of the guitar, that just made me want to learn it. So I started singing in folk clubs around about the late 60s, and it was round about the time of the folk boom era. I don't know if you remember that. No, I don't know, because you weren't born then. I never. No.
I was just going to stay silent now, Gordon.
So that was the time of I wanted to try and be the next Dylan or Bob Dylan or Donovan. And I know you're sitting there saying, who's Donovan? No?
Well, no, I have heard of him. So yeah, you're okay.
You have heard of him, right. So I started playing in folk clubs and continued that for about probably the next 30 years or so. And during that time, I wrote my first song now this was just a song I wrote for my grandfather. My grandfather used to take me every year on holiday to Blackwater Foot. Now, Blackwater Foot's on the west coast of Arn, and I've got really, really fond memories of the place. It's probably my favourite place in Arn. So I wrote this song called Blackwater Foot for my grandfather, and that sort of started me off in the writing. I never really wrote that many songs after that, and I sort of became a bit disillusioned just with the singing the same songs in folk clubs week after week. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to 2019 when I obviously, Netta and I went to the church in March 2019 and listened to your sermon, and we've been going there ever since. And then 2 weeks after our first service that Netta and I went to, we met again. I think it was at the primary school.
That's right, Gordon. Right. I remember that.
Yeah, and up in the primary school, and we talked about music, and Netta just happened to say, well, Gordon plays the guitar and sings, and you come away with, well, how would you like to come up to Dundonald House nursing home and sing a few songs? So I took the opportunity and went up there. Now, I remember the song that I sung was He's Got the Whole World in His Hands.
Oh, yeah.
And there was just something about when I was singing that song, because all the residents were all joining in, and it was just a wonderful feeling. And it took me back to 2 years previously when my mother, who had Alzheimer's, had passed away. And I used to sing that song to her, and she'd always sing along or tap her fingers, and it just brought back a special memory, Lynsey. So that night, I went home, had my dinner, went to bed, and I couldn't sleep. It's a strange feeling. I just could not sleep because there was a tune going round and round in my head, and I just couldn't. I just didn't know what the tune was, and so I got up next morning, got my guitar, wrote the lyrics, and got the chords together, and wrote my first song in about half an hour called "Lift High Your Voice," and I just thought to myself, God is working on me here. This is just, I'd never ever done anything like this before, and it was just a wonderful feeling. And since then, obviously, so I've probably written about 12 songs, so it wasn't just a flash in the pan. I've really enjoyed writing and singing these songs, and you have given me the opportunity to sing these songs in the church as well and share them with the congregation.
It was wonderful. I still remember when you had written Lift High Your Voice, and you were so eager and keen to come down to play it to me. And I remember the first time hearing it being sung by yourself, and you're playing the guitar, and just feeling so filled with God's love. It's a beautiful beautiful song. So I'm really pleased we're starting with that. I think we're going to put it on Thursday, aren't we? So this is Tuesday. Yeah. This interview's coming out on Tuesday, and we're going to share it on Thursday. But I think really what I love about your story, obviously you've always had the gift of singing and songwriting, and it started in the folk clubs. But when you blossomed in your faith, when you came back to church after a big time away, you were really open for God's leading, and God filled you with His love and with His Spirit. And from that came the creative gift to be able to write worship music. And, you've just went with it. And it's the openness to be able to hear from God. I think that's why God's using you. So, I mean, you've really blessed your church. And we are just so grateful that you're willing to share it, not just with us in the church, but also up at the nursing home, like you said, because they love your music as well. And we're really missing actually being in the building. Obviously, we've not been allowed in the care home yet, but we'll get there soon. So why, Gordon, is worshipping God important to you?
Well, just being in the company of the church family, I find them all so friendly and inspiring. And just listening, Lynsey, to your sermons and your prayers, it just brings you closer to God. But it's also important, I think, to me as a Christian, just to use the gift God gave me to write worship songs and to share them with everyone. And hopefully that it brings other people closer to God. Yeah. So I would say that's the sort of how it's sort of brought. It's so important to me.
I totally agree with you, because people kind of, I was wrestling with something during the week, and God just reminded me that when we come to worship Him, we grow in our knowledge and our love of God. And when we grow in our knowledge and love of God, then we're able to give out that love to other people. So worshiping God, I think, is as important as eating and drinking. When we stay close to God, whether it's with His Word, reading the scriptures, or listening to sermons, or in prayer, or listening to worship music, it is just He feeds our soul so that we can just live in the way we're supposed to live. And for you, that is you know, using your creative gifts of worship. So I totally agree with you. And my final question to you, Gordon, I feel I've got you in the mastermind chair there. You look like you've got a mastermind chair there. So, you know, we know that lockdown has been a time of challenge and struggles for many people, because it wasn't easy, you know, especially for people that were having to stay shielded and not having the freedom to leave the house. But God, I think, has been trying to teach many of us new things. So did you hear God speak to you in lockdown? And if so, what did you learn?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, Lynsey. Yes, I did hear God speak to me, because he taught me to slow down and be still, the famous words from the beautiful hymn, and just live for the present. But there's so many things, because you've got to embrace the changes as well. For online services is a wonderful thing, because there's so many churches getting involved, and I find that I've spoke to a few people as well who don't go to church but are tuning into these online services, and that can only be a good thing. And also, I think I've seen the kindness of people that you just never knew existed. You know, but people are so kind in all aspects of life at the moment. And also, another thing was, do you remember the book you gave me by John Ockberg?
Oh yes.
Yes. If you want to walk in water, you've got to get out of the boat. And really, in the simplest terms, it's just saying you'll come out of your comfort zone and trust in Jesus. And that's just a wonderful book, and I know it meant a lot to you as well, I think.
I know. I was saying to you, Gordon, it's really odd. Sometimes God speaks to you in really amazing, different ways. You know, sometimes he speaks to you when you're reading his word. Sometimes he speaks to you when you're in prayer. But I got this urge to give you that book. Do you know? It was like God was saying, give that book to Gordon. And I was thinking, why? Or what if he doesn't like it? And he says, just give it to him. So I'm pleased that you got something out of it. But yeah, it is a wonderful book, because I think so many of us like our comfort zones, and God wants us to grow and mature in our faith. And sometimes it means getting out of the boat and doing things a different way. And, you know, as a church, we have really embraced that. You know, none of us were really terribly comfortable about online. I was terrified about speaking to a camera. I really hid for the first couple of weeks of lockdown when I realised I had to be online. It was something that was not in my comfort zone at all. But just how God's used those services has been a blessing, because as you've said, you know, for many reasons, some people just can't get into the church building, even when the building's open. And it is just a way that we can include more people in worship.
Yeah. But as I say, this morning, I mean, I'll never be an orator. I find it difficult to sometimes, you know, to speak and express my feelings. But
you're good at it.
But give me a guitar and I'll sing anywhere. So, but I really thank you once again for giving me this opportunity, and for the opportunity for people to hear the songs, and hopefully they'll get something out of the songs.
Oh, they definitely will. So we are putting your music on our Facebook page every Thursday with a little bit of scripture and maybe a short prayer. And what we're going to encourage people to do is listen to the music and then pass it on to share it with somebody. So Gordon, thank you so much for your time this morning. I've loved speaking to you. Give my love to Netta, and I'll catch up with you both very, very soon. Okay, bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much, Lynsey. Thank you.